You see someone across a room, your heart rate spikes before you've even decided you like them. Your palms sweat, your mouth goes dry. You tell yourself this is love, but it is not yet. It's chemistry, and it's closer to a threat response than a love story. What happens inside your head in the first few seconds of falling for someone looks less like romance and more like an emergency. And understanding why might change the way you think about every relationship you've ever had. Start with the moment itself, not the relationship, just the spark. Anthropologist Helen Fisher spent decades studying this exact instant, placing people who describe themselves as newly, intensely in love inside fMRI scanners and watching what lit up. The answer surprised almost nobody who studies addiction. The ventral tegmental area, a small cluster of neurons buried deep in your midbrain, flooded with activity. This is the same region that activates when someone uses cocaine. Not a similar region, the same one. Falling in love, neurologically, looks a lot like getting high. Why would evolution wire something as tender as love to resemble a drug? Because from a survival standpoint, love was never meant to feel calm. It was meant to feel urgent. Your ancestors who felt a mild, polite fondness for a potential mate were less likely to pursue them relentlessly, less likely to fight off rivals, less likely to actually reproduce. The ones who felt obsessive, all-consuming focus survived to pass that obsession down to you. Instead of inheriting romance, you inherited a chemical override switch, and it still runs the exact same wiring today. That override switch runs on dopamine, the same molecule tied to every other reward your brain has ever chased. But dopamine alone doesn't explain the sleeplessness, the racing thoughts, the way early love can make you feel like you're vibrating out of your skin. For that, you need to look at norepinephrine, a close chemical cousin of adrenaline. It's the reason you replay a 5-minute conversation in your head for 3 hours afterward. Your body isn't relaxing into affection, it's bracing, the same way it would brace for danger, except this danger has a name and a phone number you keep almost calling. Here's where the story gets genuinely strange. Psychiatrist Donatella Merizziti, working in Italy, wanted to know why new love so often produces the same racing, repetitive thoughts seen in obsessive-compulsive disorder. So she measured serotonin transporter levels in the blood of people who had recently fallen in love and compared them to people diagnosed with OCD. The two groups looked almost identical. Both showed significantly lower serotonin activity than typical, healthy adults. In other words, the reason you cannot stop thinking about someone new isn't a metaphor. Your brain chemistry, for a period of weeks or months, genuinely resembles a clinical obsessive state. Love doesn't just feel a little like an intrusive thought. For a while, biologically, it basically is one. So if new love looks like addiction and mimics obsession, what does it do to your judgment? This is where neuroscientist Semir Zeki's work becomes almost uncomfortable to sit with. Zeki scanned the brains of people looking at photographs of people they were intensely in love with. He found that scientifically, love is blind. Regions of the brain associated with critical social judgment, areas responsible for evaluating another person's intentions, spotting inconsistencies, weighing red flags, showed reduced activity, not heightened caution. Your brain, in the earliest stages of love, appears to partially switch off the exact circuitry you'd normally use to protect yourself from being fooled. Think about what that actually means. The version of you that falls in love is, for a window of time, running with weaker judgment than the version of you that evaluates a coworker or a stranger. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's not that you're naive, or that you ignored warning signs on purpose. Your own neural hardware temporarily reduced its security settings. Evolution needed you to commit fast and hard to a mate before rational hesitation could talk you out of it. Doubt was the enemy of reproduction, so doubt got silenced. But love doesn't stay in this frantic, addicted, half-blind state forever, and that shift matters just as much as the initial spark. Psychologist Arthur Aaron, known for designing the famous set of 36 questions that can make two strangers fall in love in a lab setting, also studied what happens to couples' brains months and years into a relationship. The frantic dopamine surges of early love calm down. In their place, if the relationship survives, rises a steadier chemical signature built around oxytocin and vasopressin, the same hormones responsible for the bond between a parent and newborn child. The obsession fades. Attachment takes its place. You stop feeling like you're on cocaine and start feeling like you've built a home. That transition explains something almost everyone experiences and almost nobody discusses honestly. The panic when the initial intensity fades. People frequently mistake the end of the dopamine phase for the end of love itself, when in fact it's simply the biological handoff from one system to another. The frantic, addicted brain state was never built to last, because a species where every relationship stayed at obsession level intensity forever would never have gotten anything else done. Hunting, building, raising children, none of it happens if your midbrain stays permanently flooded with the neurological equivalent of a drug high. Calm, steady attachment isn't love dying. It's love finishing its transformation into something your ancestors could actually survive on. And here's the twist worth sitting with. If falling in love chemically resembles addiction, mimics obsessive compulsive disorder, and measurably dampens your critical judgment, then the parts of the experience that feel the most uniquely, overwhelmingly personal, the racing heart, the obsessive thoughts, the inability to see flaws, are some of the most universal mechanical processes your brain runs. The person who feels like they've never experienced anything like this before is, neurologically, running an ancient, well-documented program that has played out identically in humans for as long as humans have existed. Your love story feels singular. Your brain scan would look almost exactly like everyone else's. So the next time your heart rate spikes across a room, or you find yourself replaying a 5-minute conversation at 2 in the morning, remember what's actually happening underneath it. Your ventral tegmental area is lighting up like it does for drugs. Your serotonin is dropping toward levels seen in clinical obsession. The parts of your brain built to protect you from bad decisions are quietly standing down. None of that makes the feeling less real. It makes it more intense.